My father was a teacher, and we have the traditional farming, right? Still, I love farming the most. If the first love anybody can ask me, it is farming, which I love the most. And of course, my job itself. I always say that if there is any kind of rebirth system is there existing in this universe, I want always to be a cop.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. Today we have Dr. G.K. Goswami, who is an IPS. You have created the three pillars of forensic sciences. One is the crime scene management, scientific analysis, and how to convert expert opinion into credible evidence. And these are the three pillars of Uttar Pradesh State Institute of Forensic Sciences, right, sir? So can you talk a little bit more about that Uttar Pradesh Forensic Sciences Division and what is your key motto? What do you think? What are you planning to do?
Yeah, let me tell you. As I mentioned, that I was a student of pure science. Right?
Yeah, medicine.
I worked in chemistry. I did my research on drug chemistry. I have a lot of papers and all. I was purely a scientist, working in a very good lab in GNU at that point of time. The story of my life begins. I belong to a village from a very humble background. My father was a teacher, and we have the traditional farming, right? Still, I love farming the most. If the first love anybody can ask me, it is farming, which I love the most. And of course, my job itself. I always say that if there is any kind of rebirth system is there existing in this universe, I want always to be a cop. Okay. So that is another commitment I always have. Okay. Yeah. Having said that, because I have seen people struggling for various small things in police station and other things. So having that background, I always try to simplify things. And I always believe in my life or anybody's life that simplification is the way of life. The most you simplify things, right? The most you get connected with people. But simplification is easy to say but difficult to achieve. That is another paradox. Anyway, so when I came back from US, so my honorable chief minister called me. I visited him after reporting, and he said that we are building an institute that was university basically. Later it was converted into the institute. All this structure is completely university. It's about 50 acres of land and huge buildings have come up. He said that you have this acumen because I was known in the department and entire country that I keep writing a lot of articles. By now I have more than 6 dozens of articles, a lot of talks and all. So everybody knows that he's a police officer bent of mind for academics.
Yes.
So with this, he said that I want to place you as the chief of this institute, vice chancellor cum director. So what is your reaction? I said that, sir, you are the master of the game. Whatever you say, I will simply obey. But this is very, very prestigious for me. So if you are considering my name, I will be very happy. I know it is a difficult task because we have never done. We are police officers.
But you are eligible.
You are eligible. Educational institution will be a very horrendous task and very challenging task. Yes. But I will test myself that how much caliber I have.
Yes.
Because we run training centers. But there is a difference between training centers and educational center, which I now realize. And unfortunately, it's just a joke. In our system, people still get confused. Even the senior police officer, they believe that we are developing a training center for the police officer. No, it is not. It is purely an academic institute like IIT or any other university.
Yes.
We are actually giving education for the graduation. We have courses like BSc, Forensic Science, BTech in different branches. Of course, the tagline is forensic. We are connecting even a law. Like we are introducing one course this year, BSc Forensic Science LLB. This is the first and foremost course globally. No university is providing such type of education. So my take is that we have to connect forensic science. We want to spread the horizon. And I have just written one article named Spreading the Wings of Forensic Science. So then I went there. By then, few buildings were come up. I joined precisely on 27th of Feb 2023. Right? So nearly one year will complete in the next month. Okay. So we were designing our logo. So then I designed three words. You can see it is a very beautiful logo. Although we design, so you may say boasting, but definitely you will love it. Okay. And each and every part, we have given constitution of that is called ordinance to our logo. Probably this is the first type of a university where even the logo has ordinance. And I will share with you. It's a very lovely document because my heart is involved with that while we were making. I can tell the whole story sometime that how it was built up. Each and everything which we placed in the logo has its meaning. Anyway,
Yes.
so we developed three words and I want to explain. And it is a very, very important part to understand. Three words we have given that is motto or logo, motto you can say. One is justice, another is truth, and third is evidence. And I believe that for any kind of dispute, whether it is criminal nature or civil nature, whether it is within the family, with the neighbor, within the country, outside the country, sense of injustice is the root cause for any dispute. So if you ensure that injustice is minimized in the society, then chances of dispute will also
Come down.
go down.
Excellent.
So justice has direct connectivity with disputes. This is one. Now, how to reach to justice? And one another point before I proceed, that in my opinion, if there is one single trait somebody asks that which is the single trait a society, it is justice. Everything emanates from justice.
Yes.
Even a child, if you give toffee to go to children, they don't know that what article or there is any right to equality or anything. If you give two chocolate to one and three to another one, he will cry. So this sense of injustice is paramount. It does not need any education. It is natural. It comes through your right, you're just from anything. Even the animal has that feeling.
Yes.
That suppose if you are giving something to one animal and not to other, it will quarrel. So that sense of injustice is always to be considered. So justice is at the top of our institution. If you see the logo,
Yes.
then on the left side of that triangle, I call it triangle. I have made 2, 3 triangle to make the things clear. So first triangle, if you see in our constitution, life, liberty, and equality. This is one triangle, and it persists everywhere. The second triangle I made this justice at the top, and on the lower side, on one side, truth and evidence. I will connect. Justice, I have already explained the importance of justice.
Yes.
Right? And any decision making, whether it is judicial decision making or even common day to day life, it is basically justice what we do. So we are always playing between justice and injustice. Every act, if we go little deep, we are every day struggling to do justice. Even if with our work, with my wife, children, society, whatever. If we are not doing our work, so what we call, we are not doing justice with our job. So
Right.
justice is very, very crucial. Now, how to reach to justice? How an honorable judge do justice? What is the parameter? It is truth actually. Truth is baseline to reach out to justice.
Right. Right.
The truth behind a fact. So why we have a judicial proceeding? Everything is find out the truth behind a fact. But if you see a little bit on two terms, I said justice and truth. They
Hmm.
are intangible, very difficult to quantify.
Yes.
How you will say that this is justice? There is no straightforward jacket formula. What is truth? Difficult to say.
Yes.
Somebody may say it is truth, somebody may say no. Otherwise, so it is basically evidence, which is tangible,
Okay.
which actually lead you to reach to truth with quantification, with visibility, with certainty, and then you can lead to justice. So this triangle is very important.
Yes.
And the role of evidence is very, very important. Suppose if you want to tell somebody what is law, for a common, very simple, 3 words if somebody, easy to understand. One is just anything you do.
Yes.
If it emanates injustice, it cannot be legal. You need not to go for any legal road. Your action, if it is create apparent injustice to anybody, then it will be illegal. It cannot be sustainable in the court of law. Another is reasonability. Reasonability means logic.
Correct.
Like the logic means argumentation. When we say that he is a very articulated man, he speaks sense. What does it mean? It means that he talks reasonably. So reasonability is the trait of personality. If you want to be impressive, if you want to be a successful man, then your logic must always prevail. The person who is acceptable in the society, in any system, the logic and reasonableness is the core of the personality. So we have to imbibe the logic and reasonability in our thought process. That is very, very important, not only in decision making, but in common world also.
Yes.
And the third is the transparency, fairness, unbiased, no nepotism, no favor. Completely, like what is said, justice should not be done, but seen also. This transparency is the seen part.
Yes. Yes.
So if we understand these three words in our life, even if we do not know ABC of law, then we will be more close to the legal acts, and our act will be legally acceptable. So these three terms are very okay.
Right.
Now, so this is the background of the institute. Now let me come to our institute actually, but I have left. This is a digression, but it's important to understand the legal nuances of evidence. What is the role of evidence? So what we thought that we should develop, because I had the opportunity to underwent and to visit various laboratories in US, and when I was working in UNODC, as you mentioned, in 11, 12, 13, that time also I had a lot of exposure on different platforms to meet a lot of people across the globe, Vienna, US, UK, and all. Right, lot of interaction I had, and because it was my area of interest, so I always keen to learn. So I believe that every forensic laboratory is mostly confined only to the laboratory. They do not have the exposure for its application outside the lab. Generally, I'm not saying that everybody, of course, there may be exception, but in common parlance, the forensic expert believe that our job is just to prepare reports as expert opinion, and matter ends there. And they will sell it, and they hardly put what happened to their reports. If you talk to 10 forensic experts, I normally observe that 7 to 8% does not know that what was the final end product of the report. I say that you are basically very important part of justice system. It is not only criminal justice, it may be a civil matter also. Like say, for example, paternity. So if you have made some report, follow it. What was the ultimate consequences? Suppose you are a architect and you have designed a building. So you should visit also that what actually the product is, but how it has been utilized. If you are a tailor master, you are making a coat, you must see that how a person looks after wearing it, meaning thereby that you should have the end-to-end concern about your product. What I observed was that normally they send the report and they do not follow it until unless they call to the court. Now, I will tell you the courtroom problems. It may not be necessary. Beginning disclaimer is that it is what I say is not exclusively applicable to everybody. I am talking in general terms. So disclaimer
Yes,
is that
yes,
there may be exception, but I am talking in normal parlance,
yes.
particularly in Indian context and many other countries as well. Because I have met a lot of people, not only in India, even US, UK, and others.
Yes, sir.
What happens that when they go to the court for testimony, deposition of testimony. So normally in courtroom there are four people at a time, mostly in the action. One is honorable judge, another one is the defense lawyer, third is the prosecutor, And fourth is witness, a forensic expert. Here, one another point I want to make. We expect that forensic experts should be neutral, isn't it? Everybody wants that. It should be ideal. But he is presenting as PW,
Okay.
prosecution witness. So fundamentally, this should not be. He should call as a neutral witness. His report may be utilized or may be beneficial as inculpatory evidence to guilt or otherwise exculpatory evidence to prove innocence. But once he comes as PW means prosecution witness, that means that you are taking a side. So your neutrality is questioned. So he should be called rather than PW, he should be called as deponent. In Indian context, if you see 291 CRPC, then the medical examiner who examine your body, he is called as deponent, not as PW. So I recommend always that even the forensic expert should also be called like a deponent. He should be neutral, not as the representative of the prosecution. So this is one. Now let us see the courtroom activity.
Yes.
Now the judge, prosecutor, law, they are the legal experts. They have very limited understanding of science, particularly forensic science. So they do not understand the language of the science most of the cases. There may be exceptions. On the other side, our expert, forensic expert, is very deficient in knowledge of law, the legal journals, legal terminology. So you can say, if I say in just a witty sense, that one is talking in Russian language, another is talking in German language. So
Yes.
that gap is there. It is very difficult to communicate. How to bridge it? Then you give some understanding and knowledge during training, during education of law to the forensic expert, and vice versa, forensic science knowledge to legal expert. Now, if you talk to any legal institute, and this is everywhere, US also has this same issue. They say, no, we have enough content. They do not accept. But it is not just giving 2, 3, 4, 5 lectures, man. You have to have complete course of forensic science. It cannot be taught because there are 17, 18, disciplines of forensic science. So until unless you give at least one lecture for one discipline, and say, for example, DNA, how can you cover DNA in one lecture?
Yes, sir.
It's not practically possible. And another point, people think that forensic science is only applicable to criminal law. This is again a wrong notion. Forensic science is utilized even for commercial activity, for anything where the decision making is there.
Yes, sir.
And I qualify my observation. Suppose you are dealing with a commercial dispute. There are documents. There are so many agreements. There are so many transactions. So how to reach that whether this document is genuine or not, whether this transaction is committed by them or not. So until unless you have the forensic expertise understood by the legal expert, whether it is a judge or so, what you will do, you will depend more on oral testimony. And oral
Yes.
testimony is very much required. I am not denying, but it needs corroboration because human tendency it may be bias, it may have some manipulation, it may be under threat, the person may change the floor, become hostile.
So you are
oral
saying human
testimony
testimony.
has a lot of scope for miscarriage of justice.
So you are saying human testament in collaboration with the forensics of digital evidences. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it may be digital also. Nowadays, most of our activity are on digital. So digital evidence becomes almost inevitable in the field of judicial system.
Okay.
I see what exactly the problem right now is. Whenever we talk about cyber forensics, we think, oh, we are talking about some security breach, something like that. It is not that. It is very limited area. Whatever you are doing these days, you are writing some message to somebody. Suppose if it is derogatory, if it is lewd, having some sexual connotation, you can use it as evidence.
Yes.
Suppose if you have transacted something for some criminal purpose, A and B have some transaction, and police says that this was some terrorist activity or something. You have to prove the bank record as an evidence that why this money was transacted between A and B. Explain. So we should not limit our digital knowledge or digital space only for the purpose of security or security breach. It has a very wide spectrum. And these days, without digital evidence in every sphere, you see, suppose there is some dispute in a company, whatever, ownership dispute, whatever, everything is digital now. What you will do if you do not have the digital understanding of the evidence?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You
Yes,
can't do
at a
anything.
very, very wide spectrum. We have a very, very narrow vision. So forensic science need to be understood in a very wide spectrum. It should not only be for the courtroom process.
Okay.
See how I define forensic science. Forensic science is basically to giving you the probity what you are saying. It may be evidence. It may be anything in your statement. As I said, it brings logic to your statement,
Yes.
whether it is a report or whatever manner. So logic is the core of logic and corroboration. These are the two important pillars of forensic studies. So what we did in our institute, now let me come again, the three pillars you were talking. So crime scene management, of course, everybody says we are doing very well and all, but there are scope even for the Western world to improve the system of crime scene management. We can talk sometime later because it is not the scope. The second pillar we have, second vertical of our institution is the proper lab accreditation, the procedures, chain of custody, and many more. Of course, Western world is far ahead of us in this area, no doubt about it. But still, there are also so many pitfalls there also. It is not full. I can prove it with my own experience in the best lab I have visited, whether it is Houston lab and many other sites. It is not foolproof, let me tell you. So many things can be improved. But comparing to Indians, yes, they are a step ahead, no doubt about it. Now, the third, which is unique for our institution, and I can vouch nobody is doing it except us. And that is basically how to translate the expert opinion into credible evidence.
Credible evidence. Yeah.
Until unless we give this training to our forensic expert, to our investigators, to our other stakeholders of the justice system, whether it is a judge, it is a defense lawyer, it is the prosecutor, or the attorney of either side.
Can you qualify this statement a little bit more?
Yeah,
We need an example so that it becomes.
I will give you an example. Suppose you ask somebody that, look, gentlemen, these two samples are there. You conduct DNA. So now we have defaced, we have coded and decoded the sample. Expert does not know which case it belongs to and how this report will be read. So he will say that sample A matches with sample B on these grounds. Now, it is the investigating officer and the other stakeholders to utilize that knowledge in actual case matter. What is normally happening, particularly in Indian scenario, because of the lack of the understanding of the terminology and the science behind and all, what they do, they generally club that report as such and send it to the court without giving much explanation. It is opinion. Understand? That report is simply opinion. When you translate into the background of the case and connect with the facts, then it becomes credible evidence. So this conversion from the expert opinion into credible evidence is missing. Second point, the report. Nobody bother about the hand notes in Indian scenario. Most of the time what we do, whatever is the conclusion written at the end of the report, we generally read it and just apply. How an expert has reached that conclusion is called metadata or hand notes. Although our law in India demands that these hand notes or metadata should be produced with the report, but nobody asks it. Even if they ask, they do not know how to look into it, how to examine it, because of the lack of understanding and knowledge of the procedures. So generally, whatever we are writing as a conclusion in the report is considered as gospel.
Okay.
That is the problem. Then another point is accreditation. In various other jurisdictions, accreditation of the labs and procedures are almost settled. It is there. But in our laboratories, This has yet to be done. Few laboratories we have, but many laboratories we do not. Likewise, the definition of expert. Who is an expert?
Yes.
Still ambiguous. I have just yesterday, one article has been published in newspaper. I have taken up this issue. I have tried to give a brief definition of expert opinion. Expert, who is an expert? This is
Yeah.
still a conundrum.
Yes, this is still a
Suppose there are chances that you have never studied DNA, but you are still working on DNA as expert. So if this question is raised in the court of law that you have no education, then how can you conduct DNA? Then your report will fall flat. It has zero value. But because nobody is asking these questions, so it is standing like anything. Another point, the experts hardly mention the error rate in the report. You see, any expert opinion is not absolute. It has
Yes.
some element of errors.
and
It
bias.
has to be minimized, no doubt. But most of the time, there is a problem with our friends, expert side. Post their technologies, their techniques very high. So overrating of the reports, overrating of the results. If you ask, 90% will reply that the technique is 100% accurate. My dear friends, no technique, including DNA, is 100% accurate.